Continues to burn in Shasta County. Now crews are preparing to battle changing fire behavior as it moves closer to Shasta Lake.
And smoke from wildfires is creating concerns for people in the North State, and those air quality problems don't stop when you head indoors. We'll break down what you need to know to keep fresh air flowing inside your house. This is KRCR News Channel 7 at 5.
You're watching KRCR News Channel 7. At 5, get the facts right.
The threat of wildfires and that dangerous hangs over the North State tonight. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Brent Weber.
And I'm Allison Woods. We're watching 3 active fires in Shasta County right now. Of course, we continue to track the Carr fire, which has burned in the north and west of Shasta County. And then there is the Hers fire burning near Shasta Lake, and the Hat fire in the Bernie Fall River Mills area of eastern Shasta County. The fire is 61% contained this afternoon and has burned over 202,000 acres and has destroyed more than 1,000 homes. 8 people have been killed in the Carr fire, including a Redding firefighter, a Cal firefighter, and a PG&E worker.
Fire officials say extreme fire behavior remains a possibility as the Carr fire burns closer to Shasta Lake. Now, days after the fire first broke out, firefighters witnessed a tornado-like whirlwind of fire, jumping a portion of Whiskeytown Lake and consuming the Oak Bottom Marina, destroying over 40 vessels with it. That evening, 2 more extreme fire occurrences happened in Redding neighborhoods, described as fire tornadoes. This morning, incident behavior analyst Dan Bouzier cautioned firefighters about the fire's behavior when extreme heat is near a large body of water.
We could have what we call blow-up conditions. That cool air will be induced into the fire area, and that fire will get the air that it needs to combust very rapidly. It could channel that cold air topographically and create those fire whirls and those vortices that we call them. And so all we can do is forewarn the firefighters out on the line that they're coming into an area of concern and to keep vigilance on that.
He cautions the fire crews on this possibility not to scare them, but to remain vigilant.
And here's a live look. It looks like the smoke is kind of clearing up this afternoon. A live look from the Mercy Medical Center Skycam. The First Alert Weather Team is tracking the threat of isolated mountain thunderstorms in the coming days. Meteorologist Rob Elvington is here with more on what we can expect. Good evening, Rob.
Good evening, Allison. And yeah, we have seen some improvements for parts of the North State in terms of the smoke. As we get later in the afternoon hours, we start to see a lot of that smoke lift and get picked up by some of those upper level winds. But keep in mind, we've got smoke impacting all parts of the North State. A lot of smoke coming from the Mendocino complex. And of course, we'll be talking about the smoke coming up shortly. I wanted to jump into this. This is the fire weather watch that was issued earlier this afternoon for parts of Siskiyou County and Modoc County. This goes into effect at 5 o'clock tomorrow. It's in place through 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning, and it's for the threat of dry thunderstorms, dry lightning on dry fuels and gusty outflow winds. That's the big concern. And you'll notice it goes to 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning. So there is concern for overnight thunderstorms in the middle of the night and into your Wednesday morning. As we zoom out, what we're tracking is moisture from what was once a hurricane, Hurricane John. It's remnant tropical moisture now, and you'll notice how we're seeing a lot of thunderstorm activity, mainly south of Tahoe. But by tomorrow and into Wednesday, that's when we're going to see increasing chances for thunderstorms. The predictive services has issued a high risk for areas mainly off to the east. This does not mean areas west of that cannot see any thunderstorms tomorrow or Wednesday. It just means those areas in red have the best chances of thunderstorms and even dry lightning. Back to you.
Thank you, Rob. Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke and Agricultural Secretary Sonny Perdue spent the day attending briefings and meetings with those impacted by the Carr fire. The pair started their day at the Incident Command Post in Anderson for the morning briefing before hosting a roundtable discussion at Carr Line's restaurant in Redding. This afternoon, they toured the air attack bays before speaking to the press. Secretary Zinke spoke with us this morning about the shift in focus on fire prevention.
I would think everyone's goal is healthy forests, making sure we don't have these catastrophic fires. Fires are good as long as they're in the shoulder season and prescribed and controlled, not these uncontrollable ones. But we want the outdoors to be enjoyed. We want to make sure that we preserve habitat, clean water, clean air, and certainly with the air today, the air this last week, It's not been healthy. I mean, people shouldn't even go out and run. So I'm hoping that this is a unifying time.
KRCR News Channel 7's Julia Avery spent the day with cabinet members getting a better understanding of what they hope to do to help with the recovery efforts. That's ahead tonight at 5:30.
Those smoky skies have people looking for ways to protect themselves and find fresh air. And while those masks help you outside, KRCR News Channel 7's Jeff Andrews found there are some steps you need to take to keep the air inside fresh as well. Jeff?
Brent, when you head inside, you may not notice the smoke as much, but there are some simple tips to help you keep breathing clean air. The first is to use a recirculating setting on your air conditioner. It's not just the filters on your cars that need to be checked regularly. The ones on your air conditioning unit probably need to be checked as well. Matt Hall of Hall's Heating and Air says changing your filters may be a case of out of sight, out of mind, but it can make a real difference in the air that you're breathing.
So you should change your filter as often as possible. If it looks dirty, change it. Don't wait around for it to get, horribly clogged up. So it's only going to help in the situation that we're in right now. Here is a throwaway filter that I would not recommend using at all. It's very flimsy, doesn't catch much, and kind of a waste of money, but they are about a $2 filter.
Hall suggests making a reminder for your air filter on your calendar. Change your filter the first of the month. Get a filter of a MERV rating of at least 8. Most HVAC dealers carry them. And if you're worried about the expense, it's about the same energy as the use of a light bulb. Get more tips on our website. Jeff Andrews, KRCR, News Channel 7.
All right, thank you very much, Jeff. Well, we're all dealing with these smoky conditions, and it can be difficult to know exactly how bad that smoke is going to be on any given day. First Alert meteorologist Rob Elvington is back now with a look at where the smoke we're seeing is coming from, the factors impacting our conditions. Hey, Rob.
Hey, so this is nearly real-time data. This is visible satellite imagery with a natural background. This is from the College of DuPage. We've shown this a lot over the last 3 weeks. And you'll notice it's not just the Carr fire, the Hers fire, and even the burn operations going on with the Carr fire. Of course, we're seeing a tremendous amount of smoke from the Mendocino complex. And what we see through the late afternoon hours and into the evening, we start to heat things up, and those smoke plumes start to take off, and a lot of that smoke gets picked up by the upper-level winds. So we've clearly got southwesterly winds aloft that's pushing a lot of that smoke off to the northeast. But you'll look at all this smoke right here. That is low-level smoke. And of course, at night, all of these smoke plumes collapse, and a lot of this smoke starts to settle in lower elevations. So that's why we continue to see a lot of smoke, even from the Mendocino complex, even with winds from out of the south and southwest, because again, a lot of the smoke will start to settle. And that's going to continue to be the case as long as these fires are in place. Again, all the fires burning throughout Northern California. Back to you.
Thanks, Rob. The Hers fire near Shasta Lake is only 5% contained. It has burned now more than 4,000 acres. Several homes remain under evacuation orders north of Gilman Road, near Hers Mountain Road. Firefighters say there has been little spread toward the south between Hers Mountain and Hers Bay.
Security questions remain after a ground crew employee stole a plane from an airport in Seattle and took a joyride.
You'll notice that Good evening, welcome back. This is the latest MODIS heat detection map. This was released at 2 o'clock this afternoon, still waiting for the latest one to come down. You'll notice that I did leave the hat fire off of this map. We just have not seen any heat over the last 2 to 3 days with the MODIS heat detection. That is good news. So again, nothing but yellow dots with the hat fire closer to Fall River Mills. Hers fire still putting out heat and likely fire activity. And again, this was released at 2 o'clock today. What you're looking for are these red and orange dots. That's indicating heat detection over the last 6, 12 to 24 hours. And of course, this northeastern area of the Carr fire is still a big concern. Of course, a lot of these dots have been fire operations over the last 5 to 7 days. Those firefighting operations setting up those defensive lines. Now, the other big concern over the next couple of days will be the threat of mountain thunderstorms. Now, the chances are pretty low for everyone. And if we do see some thunderstorms, best chances will be east and northeast of the valley. So we're talking places like Lassen County, Modoc County, but even mountains to the west of the valley. You still need to be on the lookout look out for thunderstorms over the next couple of days. And it's remnant tropical moisture that's moving in through central and northern California. And that's from former hurricane. It's no longer a hurricane at this point, but former Hurricane John and its remnant moisture. So here's a look at Precision Cast. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. You'll notice a little bit more cloud cover tomorrow. Of course, it's going to be tough because we're still tracking all the wildfire smoke. And then you'll notice around about 5 o'clock tomorrow, you've got all this cloud cover east and northeast of the valley. Precision Cast often has a hard time with these elevated high base thunderstorms. So just keep an eye on the areas that you're seeing the clouds, likely the best chances of seeing thunderstorms. And that'll continue through about Tuesday night. Even Wednesday, there'll be another chance for some thunderstorms in the afternoon hours. Sustained winds right now, we've got south winds up the valley. And as you get up to 5 and 10,000 feet aloft, we have southwest winds. So that's pushing all those smoke plumes off to the east and northeast. Tomorrow, we will see another round of south winds up the valley. Higher elevations, it's more of a west and southwest wind. Keep in mind, these are surface winds. As you head up to 10,000 feet, the winds are more from out of the southwest. High or overnight lows right around the low to mid 60s throughout the valley. These are close to normal for this time of the year. And look at your afternoon highs for tomorrow, right around the upper 90s for Hayfork and Weaverville. We're really not going to see those afternoon highs change much over the next 2 to 3 days. It'll be a little bit warmer by Friday into this weekend, but all the way through Thursday, no major changes with the afternoon highs. Your 7-day forecast for Chico, again, just a slight chance for mountain thunderstorms over the next couple of days, but we're definitely concerned with any new fire starts, and we already have ongoing fires, so any thunderstorms that do form, they will produce some gusty winds, and of course, we do not need to see those gusty winds near those already ongoing fires. Highs will run warmer by Friday into this weekend, and Redding, your 7-day forecast, near 100 degrees over the next 3 days. Would not be shocked if Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday do make it up to the triple digits, but much higher chances of seeing triple digits by Friday into this week. And we'll peak right around Saturday and Sunday with highs closer to 105, again, for the Redding area. Back to you.
Thank you, Rob. A pair of bizarre scares ending with a pair of plane crashes. Details on the stolen Seattle plane and the investigation into what led a man to crash a plane into his own home. That's next.
Nearly 100% on Friday. Around the clock.
Good evening, Tamara.
Good evening, Allison. It's not just crews here in the North State dealing with the wildfires. Crews up and down the state are working to battle fires burning thousands of acres.
Firefighters working around the clock in California are finally making headway.
There's no words for the amount of thankful that we are.
Over the weekend, crews were able to increase the containment of the Holy Fire to 50%, up from just 10% on Friday. Nearly half of the 21,000 people under mandatory evacuation were able to return home. One woman shared photos of her house covered in red fire retardant, but spared by the flames. We're also getting a glimpse of what evacuations were like last week.
Get in, that's good dog.
Newly released police body cam video shows crews racing to help evacuate an animal shelter ahead of the Nelson fire in Vacaville.
My mind was racing. I was calling as many people as I could to see if they could get down here, who can bring crates.
Fortunately, the flames never reached the shelter, and all the animals are now in foster homes. Meanwhile, crews continue to make progress in several other large fires. The Mendocino Complex fire, the largest in state history, and the deadly Carr fire are more than 60% contained.
And containment on the Carr fire is now at 61%, and crews are working to battle the Hat and Hers fires also burning in Shasta County. Tamara DeMonte, KRCR News Channel 7.
Thank you, Tamara. The California Supreme Court has rejected a lawsuit that could have made it easier to hold police liable for crashes during pursuits. The court ruled unanimously today that law enforcement agencies in the state are protected from lawsuits in those cases, even if every officer has not attested to having read the agency's pursuit policy. The ruling came in a lawsuit against the Southern California city of Gardenia by Irma Ramirez, whose son died in 2015 after an officer bumped his pickup truck during a chase. At issue in the case was a state law that gives police broad protection from liability during pursuits. Ramirez's attorney said the decision makes people less safe. Across the North State, people are slowly returning to homes after being evacuated by the Carr fire.
And some are learning that there isn't a home to return to. Ahead tonight, we'll hear from a Lewiston woman who was finally able to get back to her property only to find her home destroyed.
Members of the Trump administration spending time in Shasta County to survey the damage from the Carr fire and find ways to prevent the next major wildfire. KRCR News Channel 7 at 5:30 is straight ahead.
You're watching KRCR News Channel 7.
By our wish it were.
Fire season.
Fight Fire Friday.
Savings. Visit imartexpress.com.
I'm Tamara DeMonte with KRCR News Channel 7, and we would love for you to join us on Fridays at 5 for Fight Fire Fridays.
Every week there'll be new safety tips on how to help keep your family safe this fire season.
Fight Fire Friday is sponsored by Clean Right, Build Right.
Cousin Gary Holmes, right.
County, the U.S. Secretary.
New tonight, a home in Lewiston.
Every week there'll be new safety tips on how to help keep your family safe this fire season.
Fight Fire Friday is sponsored by Clean Right, Build Right.
Cousin Gary Holmes, Redding and Chico will treat you right.
New tonight, a home in Lewiston is destroyed by the Carr fire. This after Cal Fire says there were no homes in Trinity County destroyed.
With the Carr fire burning on federal land and the president issuing an emergency declaration for Shasta County, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture and the U.S. Secretary of the Interior touched down in Redding to see the damage.
And those living in the hardest hit areas with the littlest time to evacuate described the sheer minutes they had to escape and what they wish they had ahead of time. This is KRCR News Channel 7 at 5:30.
You're watching KRCR News Channel 7 at 5:30. Get the facts right.
The Carr fire is 61% contained tonight and has burned more than 200,000 acres. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Allison Woods.
And I'm Brent Weber. The Cal Fire says evening down canyon winds affected fire activity last night. And dense timber and vegetation continue to make the firefight more challenging. 8 people have died in the fire, including a Redding firefighter, a Cal Fire firefighter, and a PG&E worker. At this time, 528 structures remain threatened.
A Lewiston woman lost her home in the Carr fire after hearing no structures were lost in Trinity County. KRCR News Channel 7 Sade Brown spoke with her and joins us now live in the studio. Good evening, Sade.
Hi, Allison. So Pam Donaldson of Lewiston says she was stunned when she heard her home was gone and isn't sure if she can start over.
It was a beautiful bridge.
A bridge that led to the place 70-year-old Pam Donaldson called home for 13 years.
This is the bridge that spans Deadwood Creek.
Now Pam and her family crossed the bridge by foot to get to the place their home once stood. Pam explained when the evacuation was lifted from Lewiston, the path to get to her home was still closed off.
They started coming back in, and they kept saying, no structures were lost, no structures were lost. They wouldn't let us come up this road until Friday.
But it was too late.
According to one battalion chief, he was up on Saturday, he thinks that this fire it's only been 2 days. He thought maybe on Thursday. So after the evacuation was lifted, he thinks that's when this place burned.
They were shocked when they learned what happened to their home.
Eric and Jarrett, my son-in-law, came out first, and then they were coming back to get my daughter and I. And when they got back and told us, both of them had tears in their eyes. I thought they were kidding. And so then we all drove up. And it was just, I was stunned.
Pam says they don't have fire insurance because her property isn't defensible, and they can't start cleaning up until they have a sturdy bridge in place to move things. As for coming back to rebuild,
I don't know if we're going to rebuild. This is beautiful property. We may end up building the bridge, doing all the cleanup, and putting it up for sale.
Pam is hoping to raise funds to help rebuild the bridge through a GoFundMe page. For now, she's staying in Douglas City with her dear friend until her next move. Sade Brown, KRCR News, Channel 7.
Let's take a live look over Redding tonight from our Mercy Skycam. First Alert meteorologist Rob Elvington is tracking the very latest. Rob?
Thank you, Brent. The big concern heading through the next couple of days will be a surge of tropical moisture. This is actually coming from remnant hurricanes, but some tropical moisture moving in tomorrow and into Wednesday. So we are concerned about thunderstorms and, of course, dry thunderstorms, new starts for new fires. We're also concerned about gusty winds. So you'll notice the areas shaded in yellow. That is a fire weather watch. You'll notice it goes into effect at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, and it's in place all the way through 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning. So even overnight and morning thunderstorms will be possible as this moisture moves through. We'll zoom out and take a look at the radar and satellite. You'll notice all of this activity. That is some of that thunderstorm activity associated with that tropical moisture. And again, heading through the next 24 to 36 hours, some of that will move into the North State. Of course, we're still tracking plenty of smoke from all the wildfires burning. We've got the Carr fire, the Hers fire, and of course the Mendocino complex off to our southwest. We'll zoom in closer to Shasta County. Carr fire, keep in mind we also have burn operations on that north and northeastern edge. And then you'll notice right here, before it gets covered up by the smoke, that is the Hers fire. The Hers fire is still putting out plenty of smoke. And the Hat fire closer to Fall River Mills, not putting out much smoke or heat over the last 2 to 3 days. So this is by far the most active parts of Shasta County. Back to you.
Thank you, Rob. The Hers fire near Shasta Lake is still 5% contained. It's burned more than 4,400 acres. Several homes are under evacuation orders north of Gilman Road near Hers Mountain Road. The fire is expected to continue to spread along Gilman Road. There will be a public meeting tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the Lakehead Lions Club on Mammoth Drive. Well, U.S. Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke and U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue are in Shasta County today discussing the Carr fire. Secretary Perdue sat down with KRCR News Channel 7's Julia Avery for a one-on-one interview, and she joins us now with what he said. Good evening, Julia.
Good evening, Allison. The secretaries had a fire briefing with CAL FIRE. They held a round table with our local leaders. They met the smoke jumpers fighting the fire, but most importantly, they discussed how to prevent this from happening again.
You can see these things on television. There's nothing like being here and to come and to hear just like the mayor said, neighbors and friends and relatives and maybe your own self who lost homes. And where do we go from here?
The question on everyone's mind, what now? With the Carr fire burning on federal land and the president issuing an emergency declaration for Shasta County, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, and the U.S. Secretary of Interior, Ryan Zinke, came to Redding to see the damage, meet the men and women fighting the fire, and talk strategy.
Forest owners, and that includes the U.S. Forest Service, are great stewards of the land. We understand more than anybody how great forests, well-managed forests are healthy. They're healthier for hikers and others, and yet we've been prohibited from doing what contributes to good forest management for a number of years now.
Many environmentalists believe that rising temperatures and drier conditions are behind the increase in large and deadly wildfires. But Congressman Doug LaMalfa argued we should be focusing on finding active solutions and prevention.
We know we have the loads of fuel in the forest that need to be managed, and for that matter, the need to store more water if indeed we're not having the runoff, not having the snowpack. So let's do something about it instead of suing each other over it and be active on what we see the effects are.
We need to do a little administrative fix in Washington to allow our superintendents, one, the authority, hold accountable, and give them the right tools to do it. And we're going to get sued. So be it. President's been pretty aggressive on getting the courts back to following the law.
Perdue says there's only so much that can be done in Washington. A change must be made on the local level as well.
What we told you we're going to do with fuel breaks there, and you've got people here who say it's a sham. So there's local responsibility there to go to the local communities, get the reasonable environmentalists, include them, and talk about, communicate what we're trying to do together.
The Redding mayor, along with other local leaders, spoke about changes that can be made, all concluding that a change has to happen, or the secretaries will be back years down the road looking at even more destruction. Our Kelly Som interviewed Secretary Zinke this morning on Daybreak. You can find that interview along with the press conference held by the secretaries today on our website, krcrtv.com, or on our Facebook page. Julia Avery, KRCR News Channel 7.
Thank you very much, Julia. The Carr fire burned through Shasta County at high speed, so fast that many residents did not receive an emergency alert, but made it out of their home still with seconds to spare. Raymond Lecomte says he had less than 5 minutes to grab important documents and load his siblings in the car, and that's when he was faced with a line of cars frantically trying to flee their neighborhood. He says some people were even driving on the wrong side of the road, rushing to get out of harm's way.
We didn't really know it was going to come, so we kind of just waited it out, was waiting to see if maybe we'll get an alert, but, you know, nothing happened. But that was probably the more scary part, was trying to get out with everyone in panic.
Raymond added that he previously received alerts for other evacuations in Shasta County, but never received one for his own home. He says the fire was moving so fast it was hard for anyone to anticipate, but he told me next time he will leave sooner, or would leave sooner, to avoid the traffic and chaos. He believes it put him and his family in a more dangerous situation because he wasn't sure if everyone was going to make it out alive.
A small plane crash in Utah killed one man today.
But officials say that man was the pilot and he crashed into his own home. Coming up, why authorities believe he did it and what he had been arrested and released for in the hours before crash.
Plus, Vacaville police in a race against time evacuating an animal shelter as a wildfire rages nearby. That's coming up on KRCR News Channel 7 at 5:30.